Have you heard of superoxide dismutase? You probably haven't. That's because people aren't talking about this, but this is something that our body creates that literally keeps us alive and counteracts the effects of oxygen, the toxic effects of oxygen, which again, most people have not actually even heard of. Today, I'm talking with François Vix, who is the president and CEO of GliSODin. He also has over 20 plus years of experience as a beauty industry leader. He's worked with L'Oreal and Lancôme and Neutrogena, all the big names. And then he went out on his own and really looked at what is going to be a game changer in the industry of beauty as well as in health overall. And superoxide dismutase is really something that should be talked about much more. I love this conversation. I'm of course so fascinated with oxidative stress because it is such a driver of disease in our body. And superoxide dismutase is such a powerhouse to be able to combat oxidative stress. This episode gets a little bit sciencey, but he really brings it back and makes it practical. He's such a lovely man. We had a great conversation, and I think you're going to walk away with some really big, mind-blowing feelings and so much great information that he brings. So I know you're going to love this one. Francois Vix, thank you so much for being with me today.
It's great to be here, Miranda. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. So I'm curious, you've spent decades at the intersection of science and skin health, and you've been a part of some of the biggest brands in the beauty industry. And I'm so curious, what sparked your passion to, really go into oxidative stress particularly?
Well, to be honest, I didn't decide to go into oxidative stress. It just happened. But it's true that I worked for L'Oreal and Johnson & Johnson and Neutrogena for almost 18 years. So I had a full career as a business executive, global business executive, because I work in many different parts of the world. However, call it midlife crisis, or I don't know what it is, but when I turned 40, I decided that I wanted to do something for myself. I wasn't sure, but it's great to work for those large companies, but you don't have much control over your life. And I think, I don't know if it's wisdom, but or maturity, I wanted to have more control over my life. And to do that, I had to leave those golden cages, and try something of my own. So when I turned 40, I founded a small investment company. Right after quitting, leaving Johnson & Johnson. And I raised some capital, and we would do seed investment, so very early stage investment in some projects. And it was interesting, but it was not exactly me. I mean, I'm very much hands-on. I like to, run the business. I don't like to just invest money and then wait and see or even coach. So there was one project that really intrigued me. It was two French immunologists who conducted research in the field of AIDS under the supervision of Professor Luc Montagnier, who is the laureate for the 2008 Nobel Prize of Medicine. And as the co-discoverer of the AIDS virus. So, and he's a true believer in natural products and functional and integrative medicine. And he believed that, of course, to treat AIDS patients, the first stage will be retroviral drugs, the chemotherapy. But that won't do anything against the damages, generated by the virus. So that's where he believed that you had to use botanical extract, natural medicine, natural products to recover and reduce oxidative stress caused by the virus. So, well, back to those two guys, they came to me and they had developed a orally bioactive form of superoxide dismutase. So called also SOD. So SOD is probably totally unknown to your audience, but it's a very important molecule. As a matter of fact, without SOD, we just die. And that's SOD is part of an enzymatic pathway that our body produces to protect us against the toxicity of oxygen. And it's an incredible molecule. It appeared 2.5 billion years when oxygen that appeared 3.5 billion years ago on planet Earth. It was 4 billion years. It was trapped underwater, and then it started to evaporate, in the atmosphere. And when that happened, it almost killed all life forms on Earth because oxygen is very toxic. And it's clearly it's a very powerful source of energy. And and it's the source of energy for our cells. So without oxygen, we die. But when you consume oxygen, we die as well, but it takes longer. Because basically we breathe oxygen. Oxygen is used by our cells as the source of energy. And in the process of consuming and burning that oxygen, there are 2 to 3% of oxygen molecules that are not properly burned, and they give birth to reactive oxygen species, the most toxic free radicals. So anyway, it's a long story. I'll get back to SOD because it's really interesting. But those two guys had been working on SOD, and SOD is very well known. It was discovered in 1968 by 2 American scientists, Michael Friedovich and Joe McCord. Its critical role. They discovered its critical role and its importance. And when it was first discovered, it was called the enzyme of life, because every life form, botanicals, animals, humans, which consumes oxygen, produces superoxide dismutase to neutralize the toxicity of oxygen. And that SOD appeared 2.5 billion years when oxygen was in the atmosphere, and it hasn't changed in 2.5 billion years. So it's usually nature has this habit of modifying molecules and things that are not perfect, just to make them perfect. And in that case, SOD has remained the same, and it's so critical that it was, as I said, it was called the enzyme of life because the more SOD a species produces, the longer it lives. There is a direct correlation between SOD that protects us against the toxicity of oxygen and our longevity. So it's a long story, but usually not everybody and not many people know this story. So those 2 immunologists came to me and said, well, you might be familiar with SOD. SOD has been used extensively in medicine as an anti-inflammatory, but in an injectable form. So, for example, to treat osteoarthritis in the knees. However, SOD was extracted from beef liver. And it was purified to a very high degree, so it could be injected. Back in the 90s, mad cow disease in France, in Europe, we can't use, animal extracts anymore. And so you had to switch to an alternative source of SOD. But SOD extracted from botanicals cannot be purified to a very high level, so it cannot be injected. It had to be taken orally and really go through the GI tract. However, SOD is a very small molecule, and it's destroyed by the acidity in the stomach.
Mhm.
So you had to develop, and that's what those two guys did, a protective matrix to protect the SOD so that it's delivered where it should be delivered, uh, undamaged. And so they used a fraction of gluten, which I know is a bad word, but in that case, it's not such a bad word
No
because
problem.
a fraction called gliadin.
Mhm.
And gliadin has two purposes. It's a hard protein, so it will protect the SOD against the acidity, but it also has very strong bioadditive properties.
Mm.
And so those bioadditive properties will help it to stick at the upper level of the small intestine, where you have 70% of your immunocompetent cells. And that's where the absorptions will happen.
Mm.
So gliadin has two purposes: first, protections, then really targeting the right area. And so we didn't know that much, when they see me. And the reason why I was very interested in their story was that I had come across SOD when I was at L'Oreal,
Mm.
because L'Oreal has multiple patents on topical SOD
Mm.
for hair graying, hair loss, and so on. And so when I met those two guys, I was very intrigued, an orally bioavailable form. Wow, this is it's got to be very interesting, especially as SOD has for a long time had a very bad reputation in the US, for example,
Mm.
because it was not bioactive, orally bioactive, because everybody knew it will be destroyed in the stomach.
Mhm.
So those two guys, had done that, developed that protective matrix. They patented it, and I was interested. You know, maybe I was a little crazy because, starting. So I suggested, I offered those two guys to come with me, and we'll start a company, and that's what we did, which was a little crazy because you don't start a company in life sciences, on
Mm.
your own. It's far too expensive. You can spend millions and millions, and after 10 years, you still don't know whether you have something.
Mm.
It's not, it's very, very, it's a very expensive way. But so anyway, we raised capital and we developed a strategy to focus on natural products. We didn't go into drugs. We didn't go into biotech. We said, let's try to extract SOD from natural products, and then to develop nutraceuticals, which is what we did, and that took us 2 years, and a very difficult job because SOD is very unstable.
Mm.
So every time you damage the molecule, it will lose its activity up to zero because
Mm.
it's a chain reaction. And but we managed to stabilize it, and after 2 years, we had a product that was like 20 years ago, and we started marketing around the world. What it was a natural product, a nutraceutical, and but we also always took the high road. So we invested in science, we invested in research. So today we have over 40 published studies on our product,
Incredible.
and in 10 different countries. So it's not just research that was conducted in a small lab in the south of France.
Mhm.
It's actually research that has been validated by many labs, some of them in the US, but also, we've worked with the top Japanese universities, for example, because funny enough, SOD is on the top of the world in Japan. The
Mm.
medical and scientific community has a lot of respect for that molecule,
Mm.
but also in Korea, in France, in Germany, and so on, in Poland, pretty much everywhere, in many different fields. That's why you probably would be interested, because as a integrative doctor or functional doctor. We work in cardiovascular health, we worked in metabolic syndrome, we worked in oncology. We did all, I mean, not all human clinical studies,
Mhm.
obviously, but a lot of good science, good research. And then we have human clinical studies in dermatology, plastic surgery, for recovery. We have, sports medicine, because
Mhm.
what all those indications have in common, it's oxidative stress.
Right.
You know, so if you look at dermatology, 90% of skin diseases are linked to your immune system. It's some sort of dysfunction
Hmm.
of your immune system. So that's where we stand today. We
Hmm.
have lots of research. We market our product in 50 countries, mostly with physicians,
Hmm.
which is pretty unique because not a lot of nutraceutical companies can go to a doctor and present a product with the right supporting data, which
Yeah.
we can, and which we have done in many, many countries.
Yeah. That's
And
incredible.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
well, it took us 20 years.
Well,
Long time.
honestly, I love that you're mentioning like maybe it was a little crazy, but I feel like that's where the magic happens in business and in life when we do something that's a little bit crazy. We take a risk, and I mean, it's something that's like you said has been around for a very long time and is definitely, tried and true in that sense, and it's really just making it possible to be used as a nutraceutical, which is incredible that they were able to do. And it
Yeah,
makes sense that it has so many applications because our cellular health is our every health. It's everything. We're made up
absolutely.
of cells. So that makes
Yeah.
so much sense. I'd love to go
Good.
from there. Oh, go ahead.
No, no. Well, just to, back what you just said, it works on the cellular homeostasis. So it
Mm-hmm.
really reestablished cellular balance. And by the way, everything that I'm telling you is published.
Hmm.
Okay, I'm not telling you anything, something that is not published. So, because it's just not my style.
Yeah.
So yes, sorry just for the interruption, but I thought it was. So we've published a study on that shows exactly that, in New Frontiers in Energy, which is a top publication in the field of energy, showing that how we can, under an aggression from an allergen, the product can help reestablish the cellular balance.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I appreciate you saying that because there are so many claims that people can make, of course. We can just say whatever we want nowadays on the internet. But to be able to back that up with research to say this actually does have a, clinical difference, that is saying a lot, definitely. Wow. And I just wanted to go from there to go a little bit deeper. You covered, what superoxide dismutase is and, how it came around. But I would love to go back to that with just what oxidative stress is, because you're right. Most people don't know really what
Mm,
that is, what that entails. If you can go into that a little
yeah.
bit.
Okay, so oxidative stress and free radicals are toxic molecules.
Mhm.
Basically, in oxygen, there are oxygen molecules that have not been properly burned, and they are unstable molecules. Radicals are unstable molecules. They are missing usually one electron.
Mhm.
So the common feature in all free radicals is that they will do a lot of damage to recover that missing electron.
Mhm.
So oxidative damage. So they are the two major sources of free radicals are oxygen consumption, and the second is sun radiation.
Mhm.
But basically, a lot of things are producing free radicals, whether it's our environment, the food, pollution, diseases, some drugs. So they all contribute to building that big, system that is called oxidative stress. And if it's unchecked, it can do a lot of damage because basically, in the case of oxygen reactive species, for example, in that search for the missing electron, they might do some damage on the cell membranes. So they will damage the cell membranes, which is mostly made of lipids. And good way to measure your level of oxidative stress is to measure lipid peroxidation. And that's commonly, done. So you can measure it's called MDA, malonidide. But then once the free radicals have kind of punctured your cell membranes, they are going to go for the nucleus. And nucleus, if your nucleus is damaged, if you have DNA lesions on you, it will prevent your cells from duplicating themselves in a homothetic way, which could lead to accelerated aging, or it could lead to even cancer. So that's how damaging free radicals are. As I said, in the past, you can protect your from the sun radiation by using topical sunscreens and so on. If internally you can protect your cells from reactive oxygen species by having healthy SOD levels, catalase, glutathione. But that also declines with age. Our ability, it's not so much the levels of SOD that declines with age, it's our ability to replenish and recover those levels once we have had a shock of oxidative stress. So basically, we've done, it's called, the leading theory on aging is called inflammaging. So it's that low inflammatory noise. And free radicals produce inflammation. Inflammation produces free radicals, and they can certainly contribute to the aging process. So,
yeah, and to remind people that the aging process, I think so often in our regular lives we think about it just as the clock ticking by. But as you pointed out, it's really that process that's happening on our cells that could go a lot faster than our typical age or slower than our typical or our chronologic age. And so that process is actually somewhat, independent of our actual age, even though it may correlate for, with the longer time that we've been on the planet, the more, wear and tear we might have had. So I appreciate you describing all of that. With
but
that,
obviously,
oh, go ahead.
No, sorry. But there are things you can do to slow down that aging process. So,
yeah. And that's a piece that I think is very empowering to all of us, where it isn't just a process that is happening without us. We can do something about it, because especially nowadays, there are a lot more insults to our cells, so many more sources of oxidative damage and oxidative stress. And so at least we can do something about that then to slow it down a bit. With that too, can you speak to how we typically are producing superoxide dismutase? And is there a reason why that is beginning to slow down as we age?
Well, there are some precursors of SOD activities, some minerals that will SOD. There are different kinds of superoxide dismutase. You have the copper, zinc, iron, and most important one is manganese SOD. So I suppose that one way to maintain a healthier level of SOD is having a intake of those minerals, because they are like most things with our body, if you don't train your own production of SOD, SOD is called internal antioxidant. So our body produces it. So you have to keep maintaining healthy production of SOD, regulate that production of SOD. Having obviously a healthy lifestyle helps. We believe that we can help too by stimulating your own internal production of SOD, catalyzing glutathione, and having an immunomodulating effect on your immune system. So, but basically, if you want, very often I tell that to people who practice sports at a very high level. I said, if you start hyperventilating, It means that you're consuming more oxygen than your body can recycle.
Mm.
That produces oxidative stress. So if you're going to practice sports, you have to do it not in moderation, but at a very stable, pace, regular pace. Um, it's the same with your life. If you have a shock, obviously this is going to have, whether it's physical, mental, it's going to have an impact on your level of stress, and you're going to consume your own capacity of producing SOD as you do that. So you will recover, but the older you are, the more difficult it is for you to recover. It takes longer to recover. So basically that's but SOD and the other thing is we are not all equal when it comes to antioxidants.
Mm.
That's the part of your mm, genes, antibodies pool. It's obviously if you're part of a mixed population, you have probably better protection against oxidative stress because you
Mm.
have more diversified antibodies. Um, some of the population that have the highest level of allergies, for example, are the countries that have the highest are the most homogeneous,
Mm.
like the Japanese or the Chinese. They have you know they don't have a very diversified origins.
Mhm.
Uh, so that's why I mean immunotherapy is very critical in countries like China. I was in China. I got back, a few days ago,
Mm.
and that's very much something that speaks to their mind and to their interest. Most of the Chinese medicine, traditional Chinese medicine, is based on, stimulating your immune system, maintaining a healthy immune system, because they know that that's the base for everything.
Mhm. Oh, fascinating.
Yeah.
Well, I will probably bring it back there, but to take it a little different direction, just because this is a women's health podcast,
Sure.
I would love to hear specifically how, how our hormones can also impact this process if it has an impact through, the decline through perimenopause, menopause.
Yeah. So, um, you know, I looked into that because that's not so for us always, something that we get. I mean, women's health is obviously very important, but we look at it more with the angle of fertility, and we've done some
Mm.
work in the field of women's fertility.
Mhm.
But when I looked at some research on menopause and pre-menopausal women, post-menopausal women, what we have seen is that the level of oxidative stress in post-menopausal women is significantly higher than in pre-menopausal women.
Mhm.
So obviously, estrogens hormone have a protective role against oxidative stress. So that's very clear, and there is quite a lot of scientific literature on the subject. So so SOD, for example, SOD level are lower in postmenopausal women than they are in premenopausal women.
Mhm.
And it's the same for other enzymatic antioxidants, such as catalase and glutathione. And you have also a higher level of lipid peroxidation, which is
Mm.
a critical marker for oxidative stress in post-menopausal women. So definitely there is you can see that from the angle of oxidative stress. You can almost tell the pre and post menopausal time stage for a woman.
Mm.
So very critical to look into that because I know that that's not necessarily an aspect, an angle that you investigate at that time of your life.
Mhm.
There are other aspects that are, but clearly, if you have a high level of oxidative stress, this will have an impact on your immune system. Hence, could lead to uh, weaker immune system, depression, and that's it's to some extent, it's, it's you refer to that the baby blues, period.
Mm-hmm.
That's a shock to your immune system. Giving birth is a shock to your immune system, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just because your level of antioxidants are depleted. You need recovery.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the menopause is to some extent has the same consequences.
Yeah.
So, but yes, I'll be happy to share with you some of the studies that we did some research on that subject, and it's very clear oxidative stress is higher among women, postmenopausal women, than premenopausal women.
Yeah.
That's a sure fact.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting to me because we know that there are increased risk factors postmenopausally for women, including cardiovascular disease, of course, our bone health, but,
Yeah.
you mentioned depression as well, things like that. And so it's interesting then to see, and I wonder if maybe there has been any, direct studies here, but is there maybe a connection then with not just directly the hormones impacting our cardiovascular disease, for example, risk, but just lowering our antioxidant and our immune health, and then
Yeah.
that risk going up.
No, I obviously I haven't done the research, but
Hmm.
my intuition is that there is a direct correlation between the level of oxidative stress, the estrogen protection against oxidative stress,
Hmm.
and the consequences after.
Hmm.
So yes, I think it you should consider doing some taking some steps to avoid that depleted level of antioxidants, or even weaker immune system.
Hmm.
It's I think that's very necessary.
Yeah.
Um,
I think that could provide women a lot of hope because there's a louder conversation now about hormone replacement therapy helping with those risk factors. But there are some women where that isn't an option. For example, just this past week, I was talking to one of my patients who had breast cancer that was
mhm,
sensitive to the hormones, and she's not a candidate for HRT, or at least she will have to be
sure.
very, very careful with that. And so she wanted to know what her possibility was for decreasing her risk factors. And so there you go. I think that's a great thing, again, to give hope to, the things that you do to support your cells and lower oxidative stress, maybe including SOD, then, those risk
Yeah,
factors could be mediated that way.
yeah, yeah. Because even even among healthy people like these women, what we see, what we observe, and that's in every country, it's increased energy. you know uh, it's also skin clarity, because if you strengthen your immune system, you have better photoprotection.
Hmm.
It's even can I have an impact, and don't ask me how, because but I'm just sharing with you some observation on the quality of sleep.
Mm.
And it doesn't mean that you sleep longer. It might even mean that you sleep shorter lengths of time, but the quality of awakening is better, sharper mind, more focused. And these are, observations that we have seen everywhere around the world. It's from Japan to the US, Europe. So while those are, I mean, clearly good to take, at that stage in your life.
Hmm.
Now, it's not going to do anything on the hormonal front,
Hmm.
but clearly on the energy, on the sharper mind, maybe on the um, quality of sleep, possibly even the quality of skin.
Hmm.
It might have a beneficial impact.
Yeah. Oh,
Uh,
that's really interesting. The sleep part is very interesting, and that's okay if you don't, if you can't explain that, but that's really interesting to see that correlation. Hmm.
yes. Um, I mean, basically, there is an impact on the way your body is functioning. It may,
Hmm. Hmm.
at cellular level, it works better. So there might be some connection with the circadian cycle.
Hmm.
I, I, I I don't know. What I'm sharing with you is, the feedback that we get from being
Hmm.
present in 50 countries.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, I don't think
uh,
anyone will argue that better sleep is better. sleep. And especially women
Yeah.
who are in perimenopause, menopause, I don't think anyone would bat an eye at, being able to get better sleep. So
Yeah.
interesting.
No,
And
absolutely.
with skin specifically, you kind of mentioned skin, what is the relationship there with our skin health and oxidative stress?
Well, I mean, 90% of skin diseases are linked to your immune system,
Mm-hmm.
atopic dermatitis, psoriasis, pigmentation disorders, a lot of women can have melasma, for
Mm-hmm.
example.
Mm-hmm.
Melasma is it's your immune system is not effective enough. Your photoprotection, natural photoprotection is not effective enough. So strengthening your immune system is going to have an impact on your skin, including reducing photo damage, working on the elasticity. As a matter of fact, we have we have our core technology, the SOD, but we have also a couple of products in which we have combined SOD with other ingredients
Mm-hmm.
to make them more relevant. And for example, on skin inflammation, there's a product that we call anti-aging, GliSODin anti-aging, and it's very effective on reducing red erythema, red inflammation.
Mm-hmm.
Again, this is a study that's been published. So, you know, I think that's the product I will probably recommend to women in postmenopausal women, because it will SOD is going to help with your immune system. But if you want to improve your skin, dryness, you need omega-3s, for example, lipids, because that's what you need to, and that's not SOD. SOD is not going to do that to you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that is a very effective product for, people who suffer from dry skin or who have a lot of photo damage,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Yeah.
so yes, I believe they could benefit from that as well.
Yeah. And is that an oral product or a topical?
Yeah. No, we do only do oral products.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
That's my my aim in life, is to do
Mm-hmm.
the best oral products, in the world. But thought of doing topical products has crossed my mind, but I say, it's too challenging because there are so many good topical products on the market, so many, and our expertise is really in oral delivery. So that's what we want to stick to.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing because I think there is also there is some exhaustion that can come with all the topical things, the procedures that can be done, the products that can be applied also. And so being able to take something orally and something that's going to not just help our skin, but also help our health
Everything else.
overall, our immune system, our clarity of mind, all of those things. I think, you're addressing things from such a deeper angle, which I appreciate.
Yes, no, absolutely. But we've done a lot of work. It's funny that you should mention topical oral products, because we've done a lot of work, and we have published clinical studies showing that on average we can double the effectiveness of topical products.
Mm.
So if you're going to use retinoids, topical retinoids for anti-aging, wrinkles, and so on, what we've shown that if you combine retinoids with our anti-aging formula, for example, you will have double the efficacy on elasticity, on reduced photo damage, on wrinkles, on skin hydration. That's for one. Again, this is published data. I'm not sharing with you something that is not
Mhm.
published. We've done work. You've mentioned laser for hyperpigmentation, for
Mhm.
example. Well, this is a very inflammatory process, non-ablative CO2 lasers and so on. So if you combine, we have another product called skin brightening,
Mhm.
which contains, again, a lot of oils like borax oil, uh, and so on. And this is going to, when you're undergoing laser treatment to reduce hyperpigmentation or treat melasma, you're going to reduce, if you take the product in combination with your treatment, you will have much less transdermal water loss, your skin will be, and you will have much less pigmentation rebounds post laser treatment.
Mm. Incredible.
Again, that's published data. So yes, and I could have multiple examples where we've published a very interesting study on vitiligo, which is the loss of pigmentation. By the way, we are a part of the international medical guidelines for the treatment of vitiligo. So that's the worldwide guidelines.
Incredible.
In combination with phototherapy, we can double the efficacy of phototherapy, in terms of repigmentation. And we are about to publish another study with our product in combination with eczema lamp, again on treatment of vitiligo. But we have shown that for the treatment of melasma, for example, if you're using the Klingman trio, which is the topical treatment of reference for melasma, again, if you combine it with SOD, with GliSODin, you will double the results in terms of reduction of the MASI score, which is, melasma severity index. So, and I could multiply, I could show you multiple examples of those effects and results on skin.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
And that, I think that speaks so highly too to just the things that we're doing internally to support our cellular health, especially on this level, what a big effect it can really have, even externally. What other things can women do? You spoke a little bit earlier of, even just like our lifestyle and things like that. I think we're all sold off. Your product's definitely helping with a lot of these things. But what else can people do in their life that can have an impact on oxidative stress and some of these things?
Well, it's, I hope I'm not going to disappoint your audience, but, I try to do some very basic motherhood stuff, to maintain, balance is the key in life. Basically, you have to be very careful about what you drink, what you eat, what you breathe. That's where it starts. So, food, well, a lot of a diet which is rich in natural vitamins, by seasonal fruits, nothing out of this world. But the problem with, for example, fruits and vegetables is today you cannot control the amount of vitamins because there is so much, fertilizers, pesticides, that is being used, is that those products are going to impact the amount of vitamins that you get in your food. So it's always best to, if you can, take organic and seasonal products. Again, food rich in fish, and I'm sure, your audience is very familiar with what they should eat. Drink as well, it's critical, your water, and what you breathe. This is very basic, I'm almost a little ashamed to share that with you because I don't have any extraordinary piece of news to share with you about what you should be doing, regular exercise, all those things, everybody is very familiar. Sleep, quality of sleep.
Yeah. Well, truly, that's okay to not have anything extraordinary there because it just goes to show that those very basic things are what we need to do. There isn't anything extraordinary. We just have to live that way. And it is interesting that you earlier talked about exercise, especially on the athletic level, that actually, it's a good stress on our body also, but that even, too much exercise could be too much as well.
Exactly.
Too much oxygen. So, having that balance, I think, is a good point to drive home.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Well, this has been so enlightening. I think you probably have blown a lot of women's minds here with this conversation already. Is there anything else that you want to leave the listener or, a final point to make?
No, I think, part of my mission in life is, we covered that briefly, is the synergy between, skincare in and out. I
Mhm.
mean, I know it's, buying nutraceuticals in conjunction with your skincare is a little more expensive, but the outcome is so much better. And that's what that's what we're focusing on, is showing the added value of oral products in your beauty and longevity regime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the studies that you spoke to really definitely drive that home. If you're going to invest in a laser or something like that that's very expensive, you might as well just do a little bit more to really make it even more efficacious.
Effective.
Probably, yeah, last, longer with those results. So that's really
Yeah.
incredible. Yeah.
And we'll be happy to share with you the links to we have a
Mhm.
research website where
Mm.
all our research is available online. And so there are many studies for, some of your listeners who are interested in hard science. And of course, our more commercial website, or our Amazon link, because we're also available on Amazon.
Great. Yeah, yeah, we'll link that in the show notes. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today. It was such a pleasure, meeting you and hearing all about this is really incredible.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. It's great to have this discussion with you. Thank